powered by the Zapata brand studio. This wrestling great has won multiple tag team titles as part of the High Flyers team with Jim Brunzell. His father, Verne Gagne, is a Hall of Fame wrestler who created the AWA promotion and is one of the biggest icons in the history of wrestling. Straight Outta Jersey is honored to have wrestling legend Greg Gagne.
Welcome everyone, Straight Outta Jersey. I am Joe Zapata, and I am honored to have my next guest. His father, Verne Gagne, was an icon in the wrestling business. He is a two-time AWA Tag Team Champion, two-time television champion. He co-hosts a podcast called Straight Talk with the Boss with Magnum TA, and he also got a great action figure line. I am a big action figure collector, and he's going to talk about that. My friend, Mr. Greg Gagne. How you doing, Greg?
Good, Joe. Thanks for having me on today. Looking forward to it.
Oh, me too. Thanks for coming on. I wanted to first ask you, how's your health? Because I know we talked.
How's my health?
Your health. How you feeling? Those bumps? You had a lot of bumps in your day.
I had 5 back surgeries.
Oh,
they wanted to do a shoulder replacement on me. I went in 2 days ago, had to do an injection in the back, and then they give you all that
stuff.
Great stuff. And I was still awake at 6:30 in the morning and got up at 7:15. And
wow,
I was so excited about this. I couldn't sleep again last night. So I'm ready.
You're gonna lace them up again? You're gonna lace up your boots again?
Yeah, it's tough to bend over and even get the tennis shoes laced on, but I don't think I'll be doing any of that for quite a while.
I'm going to tell you just a quick story and sort of give you your flowers, as they say. April 19th, 1985, AWA came to East Rutherford, New Jersey in the Meadowlands.
Yep.
I was a 11-year-old boy. My best friend, Tommy Good, his father got us tickets for his birthday. We all went. So I was in there, great card. Saw the Road Warriors versus Larry and Kurt Hennig. We still have the card. We saw Sergeant Slaughter versus Kamala, and we saw you, Jim Brunzell, and the Tonga Kid. Do you remember who you guys wrestled?
The Freebirds, didn't we?
Boom, Freebirds, correct. Excellent.
I've got a memory. It's unbelievable.
Boom, excellent.
Yeah. I don't remember anything, but I remember some of those matches.
Excellent card. So I just wanted to thank you and your father, may he rest in peace, for giving us kids just great memories when wrestling was wrestling. That's really what I'm
thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You know, now,
I was just watching the WWE a little bit, though, and since Triple H and The Rock kind of took over, they're getting back to more of the, back to wrestling.
Yes.
You're seeing more. And I just a match that really stood out was a couple of weeks ago was the Little Olympian. And, and Sami Zayn.
Yes.
They had a heck of a match. They wrestled about 20, 25 minutes, and it was spectacular. Dan Gable. Chad Gable.
Okay.
Dan wrestled in the Olympics in 72. But see, that's where the memory is. I'm back there. I don't remember that.
72. Now, I know you weren't really going to be wrestling. You were going to be a pro football player, correct? That's what you wanted to be?
That's what I wanted to be. But, growing up, it was funny because we'd always wrestle in the living room. My dad put all the furniture back. And I actually, when I was like 5th grade, played hockey, basketball, and wrestling. Did them all in the wintertime. And I know I had very good success with the wrestling. Not so much skating. I was not a very good skater. In basketball, I played it in high school, but that wasn't really my forte. And so through my whole career, growing up, my father, when I ended up playing football at Minnesota and transferred to Wyoming, back we're off. The fall was over, and we're getting ready for what they call the winter football, where you just work out in the field house. Went home for vacation, and of course, my dad says, "Come on, let's get down on the floor." So I push all the furniture away, and my mom's screaming, you don't need to do that anymore. Come on, come on. So he was showing some more moves. So he's got me down, I can't get up, and I gave him an elbow in the nose, and he cracked a rib on me.
Oh wow!
I have to go back to Laramie. I get back there, we got winter football, and the coaches are going, "What's wrong with you, Gagne? You can't run, you can't throw a break." I said, "Well, I cracked a rib." well, how'd you do that? And of course, they thought it was funnier than hell and gave me crap about it the rest of the year. But
Wow.
but he always, show me holds, how to get in and out. And then after college football, he had it was 1972, and he was
Hmm.
sponsoring the Olympic team, the wrestling team.
Yeah.
Dan Gable was on that, and they had a great team.
Hmm.
And Chris Taylor. So it was he had him out to the house, the whole team, and then we went to the Olympics.
Hmm.
And it was quite an experience with that group of people.
Yeah. Did your dad did he smarten you up to the business? Because he's very protective of the business. Did you figure that out yourself?
No.
I didn't think so.
I'll tell you. So we come back and I told him I think I like to wrestle, and he had been sponsoring Ken Patera. Ken
Hmm.
set a record. He was the first man to press 500 pounds.
Yep. Hmm.
And then when he got to the Olympics, he ran into some gal in the bar one night before he's lifting, and he goes out there and you can pass twice. The third time you're disqualified. He passes the first two weights, he's going to show everybody up, goes for the weight, he misses it. After all that training. Him and I spent a little time there. Then we came back and I said, well, I want to wrestle. And he said, what makes you think you can do that? I said, well, I've been wrestling my whole life with you in the basement. So let's, I'd like to give it a shot. I called Jim Brunzell, who I played football with. He was struggling in minor league football.
Hmm.
And convinced him to come out. Ric Flair was a friend of ours in college. Rick always wanted to wrestle. He came in. And then Kazar Vasiri.
The Iron Sheik.
In fact, my mom gave him that name.
Yes, I heard that. Yes.
Yeah. And then we had Bob Bruggers, who came out of football. He was a little older. He was about 32. A little tougher for him to get his body back in shape after all the football. But we had a heck of a camp.
Wow.
It turned out.
I have to ask you about the Iron Sheik, and I know you get to ask this probably a million times. There's a rumor or thing about Iron Sheik being offered $100,000 from your dad to break Hogan's leg.
It's bullshit.
There you go.
There you go. If he did, nobody ever heard it. But
nobody ever heard it, right?
No, Verne wasn't like that.
Okay. Now, when your dad, obviously being a tough man, being an Olympian and everything, you're in the wrestling business. Did the wrestlers that you went against, did they try and test you in that ring?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, quite a few.
Like Mad Dog Vachon?
Mad Dog, oh, God. First time I'm going to wrestle him, right? We're in Minneapolis, and the place is sold out. And we were about, semifinal or middle of the card. And came out there, and I said to my dad, I said, what do I do with this guy? And he said, hit him hard, as twice hard as he hits you. I said, and? He says, and good luck. Great. So I go out, and Matt, I go to tie up, and he hit me, and his hands were like cement blocks. He'd hit you, and you'd feel it right down in your feet. So I hit him back. We exchanged about the third one. I caught him right on the chin, and he wobbled back. So I grabbed a leg, and I took him down. Took a deep breath like that, and he scratched my back. Oh, my God. So I wrestled about 20-some minutes with him, got back in the dressing room. I'm in the dressing room, and I'm scratching, I'm bleeding. And Brunzell's sitting over in the chair, and he said, man, you had something. He was laughing at me, and I said, well, you got him Friday night in Denver, so good luck. About that time, the locker room door kicks open. Oh, shit, here comes Mad Dog in there. We had separate dressing rooms. He's got that look, and he's growling. He goes, hands out. He goes, I respect you. Shook my hand and walked out.
Wow.
I almost filled my pants right there.
Now, I know Mad Dog. I remember watching you on Dark Side of the Ring, the Territories episode. They talked about that flight with Mad Dog. That's a true story, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's a true story. You couldn't make that thing up.
That's crazy. He tried to open up the door?
Tried. Shit.
He did.
We're coming from first. We get to Omaha. We're flying down, and I think it was they trained two people. We had a pilot from Northwest, two pilots alternated, and usually the upper part of the card got to go on that, and then they got to get home that night. But there was the rules were no fighting, no anything happens in that plane, don't never be on it again. So it was pretty low keyed. So I think it might have been Nick Bockwinkel, Ray Stevens. They were the co-pilot. And we had Steve Olszanowski, myself, Mad Dog, Adrian Adonis, and I forget who the other two were on there. And, Dino Bravo.
Dino Bravo.
And Baron von Raschke. So Dino and Baron and Mad Dog and I are playing cribbage. Mad Dog loved cribbage.
Yeah.
He's near the end of his career. He's about 50 years old.
Okay.
Late 40s. And everything's quiet. He always rocks like this. And all of a sudden he goes, Greg, you got to do something for me. It scares the crap out of you. What do you want? He says, I am meeting my fiance's family tonight. And I want to wrestle early on the card so I can go see them. Would you ask the promoter Joe Duce? So I said, yeah, I will. So we get there and I said, hey, Joe, can Mad Dog wrestle the second match tonight? He's meeting his fiance's family tonight.
Okay.
So Mad Dog, they put him on second. We're sitting there talking, Jim and I, and Mad Dog goes out. Not even 3-4 minutes later, he's back in the locker room. I said, did you wrestle? I killed him. I got to go see the family now. Right? So he gets undressed. He has a towel around his waist, and he sits down next to us. And we used to have 2 cases of beer in each locker room. And Mad Dog's sitting there drinking a beer. And Jim and I are talking. And I said, hey, I thought you had to meet the family. You want to go on early? I'll go when I want to go. Shit. Okay. So we're sitting there and we're on last, and there's an intermission. Mad Dog's still there. Finally, I see him over. Jim was with him, and came back and didn't pay any attention to it. We come back afterwards, and Jim says, Mad Dog's got to drive to Montreal tomorrow to pick up his son. The police arrested his son for going to rob a gas station.
Oh, wow.
And either Mad Dog take him to the States or they're going to throw him in jail. So Mad Dog was going to get back to Minneapolis, drive to Montreal, pick the kid up, and then drive back to Minneapolis. So Jim said, I gave him some speed.
Oh, my God.
I gave him a pill. But before Mad Dog would go out before his match, he would drink a pint of whiskey, chug it down.
Wow.
So he's had, I don't know how many beers, drank the whiskey, had the match, comes in, apparently took the pill with the whiskey.
Wow.
So now we go to the airport after the matches. We get back. There's no beer left in 2 cases gone.
Wow.
So we get to the airport, no Mad Dog. And we're waiting, and all of a sudden, here comes a cab pulling up. Steve Olszanowski gets out. Mad Dog gets out. He's wobbling like this, and he's got barbecue sauce. They went to a rib place hanging from his beard and on his shirt. He's wobbling over to the plane. I said, Steve, what's going on? He said, well, Mad Dog drank all that big, that pint of whiskey. He took that damn pill Brunzell gave him. And then we went there and he started drinking, and we had wine. And then he stopped and had to get another pint of whiskey at the liquor store. And he drank it.
Oh, my God.
He said, so I had him smoke a joint quick to calm him down. I said, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? So he gets in the plane, and we put him in the back, and he's next to Adrian back there, and nothing. That's dead quiet. And he's rocking. And all of a sudden, we're playing cards, and it felt like the whole back of the plane got taken off. Just went boom, and the whole plane moved. And the police started yelling, who opened the door? Who opened the door? And we're all down like that. We turn around. Here he is. He's hanging out the door. You can just see the backside, and he'd turn in, and he'd go, it's so peaceful, I feel like flying tonight. So the pilot says, get him in. He says, we're not going to get, he wants to jump. I'm not going with him. And all of a sudden he turns, and he's got that wild look. He opens his wrestling bag. He throws his wrestling boots out, his wrestling tights, the jock strap. Then the bag goes. And then he's doing this, and he grabs the empty case of beer, throws that out, throws the garbage can out. Then he takes, and it was the only plane they said was built that had chains on the stairs. And he had one of them wrapped around his neck, and he's hanging out backwards.
Oh, my God.
And he says, it's so peaceful, I feel like flying tonight. And the pilot says, "Get him in. We're going to make an emergency landing." And we said, "We're not going to. Hey, he's going to go. We're not going to get in there."
Wow.
So we finally get him down, and as we come down, the runway is lined with foam, fire engines, ambulance, police cars. Over on the other runway are two Ozark Airlines. They're being held, and the pilot says, "Get in a crash position because if these stairs hook, we're going to flip over."
Oh my God.
So we're all down in the position, and he comes in and he puts that thing down, and we come to a stop. Here comes the fire engines. Here comes the ambulances. The police are coming up. Mad Dog's in the back, and he's got foam all over him. He's like this. He gets out and starts walking across the runways. And
Oh my God.
they pull up and says, "Who is that guy? Is that Mad Dog Bashan?" We said, "Yeah." "Well, you guys better go get him. They're going to release the planes." He said, "Hey, he just opened the door at 6,000 feet. You go get him." They sent Steve and I out to get him. And as we got there, he turned and he hit us with open hands, and we hit him. And about that time, the big jet went by, and it just blew us right over.
Wow.
And we said, "Screw this." So we started walking back to the plane, and the police came running out. And we said, "You're going to have to get him. We're done." And they were trying to handcuff him. They couldn't get his arms back. And he's right.
Wow.
"They'll kill you guys when I get out of here." He's looking at us, looking at the police. And, So we finally get him back in the plane, and we tied him behind the pilot. We put 3 straps on him, and all the way back.
Oh my God.
"I'm going to kill you guys when I get out." When the plane landed back in Minneapolis Airport, we all bailed and left the poor pilot in there with him.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's a true story.
Wow. That wouldn't happen today. He would be thrown in jail and would never be. Today, different story.
He was a personality like you can't even describe him. He was
Yes.
He was scary.
Yes, he scared me as a kid. He scared me as a
He
kid.
was wild in the ring. You never know what was going to happen when you got in there with him.
Nope.
And just a personality like I've never been around before.
When you wrestled your whole career as a babyface?
Yeah.
Did you ever want to go heel?
Well, there's some fans don't like you,
Well, of course, but you never wanted to go heel, like turn on Jim, or you never wanted to do that?
Well, I think him and I both wanted to turn on each other a couple times.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, when you're partners that long,
Yeah.
we were, and I don't want to sound like we're bragging, but we were good at what we did.
Oh,
And we were
high
good,
flyers.
we were as good as team as there was around, and could handle anybody we really got in the ring with. And we wrestled all of them, from the Road Warriors to Blackwell and the Sheik and Patera and just Ventura and Adonis, and always had really, really good matches.
Wow. And you had one hell of a drop kick, I could tell you. And today, some of these people don't have drop kicks. How'd you learn to do that? It's you're a good athlete.
You learn it. I mean, we do it. When Verne trains us, he trained us in an old barn. Started at the end of September and went till March 1st. No windows.
Wow.
Thing, no doors. We're on the second floor. We had Flair convinced that to graduate, you had to dive out the window into the where the frozen crap was down there. And he actually quit twice because he was afraid he was going to have to do that.
And then your father smack him?
Oh, yeah. He went over to the house, said, "Rick, come on. Let's go." "Verne, I quit." "What do you mean you quit? You can't quit." I can't handle it anymore." And Verne open-handed him, knocked him on his ass to get in the car, and you're going back out there.
Wow.
But it was I'm sure people have heard how hard the camp was, but it was the hardest thing we did.
It was the hardest thing ever.
It really was, yeah. But when we came out of there, most of the time, it takes individuals 5 to 10 years to really make it in professional wrestling. We were in main events in 3 years. And Verne trained 144 pieces of talent over the years, and only maybe 2% didn't make it to the main event.
Wow.
Ole and Gene Anderson and Lars, Blackjack Mulligan, Blackjack
Sergeant Slaughter, and Ricky Steamboat.
Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our group, and it was the hardest thing we ever did. We all came out of sports, and we thought we were pretty good, but it was 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and my God, the stuff we went through was unbelievable. We had to build up to do 1,000 free squats nonstop, that to start the workout, and it takes us about 37 minutes to do those.
Wow.
And then we do some more cals and back in the ring and hitting the ropes and learning how to protect yourself when somebody's throwing you, and you know, thousands of bumps. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people believe that don't know that Hulkamania started in 1984. I myself remember Hogan. Your dad started that machine with you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And were you going to have that match with Andre Hogan? Correct.
Yeah.
Wow.
We always ran battle royals in the fall. Our biggest was from like end of September to end of April. We'd go all the time. And I was in New York wrestling, and Hogan was on the card. He had a horrible match. And he came back, and I said, "What's the matter, big man? I can't make it." I said, "You need some help. Why don't you come to the AWA? We got the greatest talent in the world there, and learn." So I went back and told my dad about him, and I gave Hogan the number to the office. I said, "Give my dad a call." And he never called him. Finally, 3 months after I was back, he got the call. He said, "Hey, this guy Hogan called. I told him to come in." And I said, "Well, I think he needs a lot of work." So he came in, and he didn't do a very good interview. So Verne put him with Johnny Valiant to do the interviews with him.
Okay.
And then we went to Milwaukee, and the first night he was there, and he's with Johnny Valiant, and people hated him. And Hogan was a heel in New York. So that's what he thought his image was.
Yep.
And geez, I watched him, and I came back. I said, "Hey, this guy, the fans love him. There's no way, but he needs a lot of work." So they put him in 6-man tag teams matches with Jim and I.
Okay.
And we would tag him, and if we got the arm, we'd say, "Take the arm, spin it, drop a leg, tag out." We wouldn't let him. And then we had such great talent that we were wrestling against. He always looked pretty good. And Verne helped him with his interviews, and then got him to do that shaking. He said, "Just start shaking, boys. Show that emotion."
Yep.
And then we were in Rosemont Horizon in Chicago. We were wrestling back Nick Bockwinkel, Ray Stevens, and Jerry Blackwell with the Sheik, Adnan El Casey in their corner. And he got in the ring, and he did that pose, that Hulk up.
The Hulk up pose.
Jim, I said, "Grab his T-shirt." We each grabbed it up on top, and we tore it off real slow. And those people went bananas. And then when we got him in the ring, we just tagged him. He made him look good all the time, and he started catching on, and that's when everything went for him.
Yep, that's really well. Me and my brother have been having this debate, my brother, and you can answer this question. We can't. So as kids, we remember obviously AWA on ESPN, but me and him are arguing what time. I thought it was on the weekends at like 12 or 1. When did it come on the East Coast? Do you remember offhand? My brother says after school during the week. I say it was on the weekend.
Well, I think they played it a couple times.
Really?
God, I want to say it was on like at 7:00.
Okay.
On ESPN.
But then they played it
in other markets.
Yes.
It could have been, because we wrestled the Showboat out in Las Vegas, and they taped them, and then played in New York there.
Yeah.
So
it was
but they showed it live too. So I don't know. Sometimes we wrestle at 9:00 in Las Vegas. So
one of the videos you guys, Wrestle Rock Rumble. Do you remember that? Yeah. How did that come about?
Well, we had the Wrestle Rock.
Yeah.
It was a group in Minneapolis, an ad agency, that heard we were doing this big event. They said, well, let's call it Wrestle Rock and tie in some rock and roll with it. Well, they couldn't get a rock and roll guy, but they got Waylon Jennings to come in and do the music. So then they came up with this idea, well, let's cut these little spots with the wrestlers.
Yep.
And,
do you remember your lines?
I'm and whatever the hell it was. But it was different times.
Yeah, definitely different times. Definitely different times. As you guys started, then McMahon started picking. Like, you guys would build a wrestler, and McMahon would just pick them from you, like the Midnight Rockers. So was that when you knew kind of the AWA was starting to go?
Vince knew the biggest territory was the AWA.
Yes.
We covered. We were on TSN in Canada, so they'd tape the match in Winnipeg, and then they'd play it across Canada. TSN. So we went from Winnipeg down to St. Louis, all the way to the West Coast. So we covered the biggest territory. McMahon had the bigger cities,
yes,
in the East, but we had the biggest territory. And Verne, he was a family man, and he always gave the talent the whole month of May and the first 2 weeks of June off.
Wow.
So 6 weeks with their family. In the summer, we only wrestled 2 or 3 times a week. Then in September is when we went from September 1st to end of April nonstop. And that was our big time. And that's when we drew the best in the Midwest.
Wow.
And we always ran those battle royals in November, October, November. And then the winner of that would meet either on Thanksgiving night, would meet the champion for the title, or on Christmas night. And Hogan had won it. And we finished our last battle royal in Phoenix, Arizona. And that night, Hogan was going to Japan, and Andre was it was a battle royal out there, and Andre was there with Hogan, and he was going. The two of them were going to New York, and that's when McMahon ended up on their plane, and we came back, and we had all our Christmas week all sold out, all our major cities. And Hogan, we had him mostly in 6-man tags and tag matches. He wasn't wrestling Bachman. Because, we had to sign a non-disclosure with CBS. They'd come to us and they wanted to do a 2-hour special in April on CBS, and they wanted the match Hogan and Hulk. I mean, Hulk, Hogan and Hulk. Hogan and
Andre.
No, Hogan and Bachwinkle for the title.
Bachwinkle, okay.
So we would hold that off till April.
Okay.
And then Christmas week came up, and we're in Minneapolis, St. Paul the first night, sold out, 20,000 people. Hogan doesn't show up. And I called him at home and said, Hulk, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to New York. And I said, we can go to New York, but, fulfill your commitment. I mean, that isn't the way you do business. Well, Vince is paying me to stay home.
Wow.
So all our major cities, then Hogan didn't show up that week. And I said, you don't burn bridges like that, buddy. Fulfill them, and then Verne will let you out of it. We couldn't tell him what was going to come up in April for him. So then McMahon started hitting our territory harder than anybody because we were his biggest competition. Our rating for our TV show crossed our markets. We had a 24 rating.
Wow.
A 64 share of the audience. There was only one show that beat us nationally. It was 60 Minutes. Wow. They had 24 rating, same as us, but they had 65% of the audience. We had 64. And we had the guys liked to work there because they had time off with their families, and we only ran with 16 to maybe 20 wrestlers. And
your dad paid very well, from what I understand. Your dad paid well.
Best in the business.
That's what I heard. Yes, he's
yeah.
One of the best. He paid the boys well. And I did also know, and I don't know, I'm not sure, but your dad, I believe, was one of the highest paid performers besides like Babe Ruth back in the day or something.
In 1950.
Yes, that's exactly what I heard.
Well, wrestling went on the Dumont network in 1950. And Verne had started wrestling in 49. And they had because he had the Olympic background. He was a Big Ten champion 4 years, 3 years NCAA champion. He had the credentials, and that's what they wanted. They wanted some of the credentials. And Lou Thez was the world champion. So Verne was on TV every week with like Killer Kowalski, Yukon Eric, Wilbur Snyder, Dick the Bruiser, Gorgeous George would come in, Hans Schmidt, Hardboiled Haggerty, Kinji Shibuya, Mitsu Arakawa, Wilbur Snyder. They were kind of they were there most every week. It was getting so popular, and people were filling the streets in Chicago and in Philadelphia and in New York, and they used to have the TVs in the windows at the old hardware stores and stuff. People would gathered out there to watch the wrestling.
Wow.
So in 1950, because Verne was on there every week, he became the highest paid athlete besides Babe Ruth to make $100,000 and he made over $100,000 in the first year in 1950.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And so he was kind of the major star on that. He caught on. And then they would take a couple guys off the card and go to the different territories. You might see Lou Thez and Dick the Bruiser in St. Louis, Killer Kowalski and Yukon Eric in Boston on the card. And Verne and Pat O'Connor, they were sent to Buffalo, New York. It was the first time they were out of Chicago. And it's wintertime. And the plane's late getting out of Chicago. They get into New York and it's snowing, and into Buffalo. And Pat turns to Verne as they get in the cab, and there's traffic all over the place, and they're late. He said, "Oh, this is going to kill our gate tonight. The snow and the traffic, what's going on?" They got to the Buffalo Arena, and it was for wrestling. They turned away 20 to 25,000 people that night. Wow, and that's when Verne realized how important TV was for professional wrestling.
Wow. And your dad did, when your dad wrestled, on the marquee, it says wrestling, and that's what your dad did. Wrestle. That's what we loved it.
That's what he always said to us too. He said, "Remember the marquee up there says wrestling. When you get in that ring, wrestle."
Wrestle. That's what we love.
Some of these other guys that don't, but you guys always wrestle.
2006, he gets into the Hall of Fame. How was that for you and your dad? I mean, did he? I know he was aging at that time, had some little dementia. How was that for your dad? Did he, honor that, enjoy that?
Yeah, he did. He had the dementia at the time, and it was funny because I told John Laurinaitis and Vince, I said, he might have a tough time up there. Will you be up there with him? I said, if he comes around, I'll take over. So we get up there, and Verne looks at me and he says, "What are we doing here?" I said, "You're being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame by Vince McMahon." Vince McMahon, I don't like that guy. That was his opening statement. But he got through it pretty good.
Wow. Because there is no Hall of Fame without your dad, at least in it, because he was an icon, especially back in your day as when you started wrestling. As we kind of go different angle here and switch gears, I want to know about, I'm a big action figure collector. I have a huge collection. Star Wars is one of my biggest things. Marvel. You got into, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the AWA, there was a guy from New Jersey who might have created it. I'm not sure you know his name. I think Rosenthal, maybe. What was his name?
Here's the story. Steve Rosenthal was working for Remco Toys.
Yes.
And his son, he lived in New York, and his son was a big wrestling fan of New York, of the WWF at that time. So Steve went in to Vince McMahon, and this is the way he tells the story. I went in and I said, "Vince, I work for Remco, and we'd like to do action figures of professional wrestlers. And I've got a contract here, and here's what it all consists of." Vince looks at the contract. He says, "I need this, 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 and this changed." Throw it back to him, change those, come on back. Steve goes back to the company, makes the changes, comes back. Vince looks at it. He says, "I need to change this and this and this." So Steve goes back, changes it, comes back. And he said, "And I need some upfront money." So Steve comes back. He says, "Vince, here's the contract. Here's the upfront money." And Vince throws a magazine at him and says, "Do you know these people?" He says, "Yeah, they're my competitors. I signed a deal with them."
Wow.
So Steve looked up and he found the AWA, and he came to Verne and he started the Remco action figures with us. It ran for 8 years, and he retired. And it was the biggest selling action figure they ever did.
I loved them as a kid. They were
And
easier
first
to play with
wrestling-
than the big ones.
Yeah. Well, now we got some big ones.
Yes, exactly. So tell me about what you got right now going.
So Steve came to me, about 3 years ago now. And he said, how'd you like to get back in the toy business? And I said, what did you have in mind? He said, we'll do action figures with the wrestlers. I said, well, you'd have to go to, one of the bigger companies. I said, but I think we could try to make something work. Let's represent the people that really built this industry.
Mm-hmm.
Vince has taken over, and everybody thinks, wrestling came from Vince McMahon.
Yep.
It didn't. It started in 1950 on the network TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, let me dig up, see if I can find the families of some of these people. I spent hours on the phone, sometimes 12, 13 hours a day. Found, Killer Kowalski, Don Leo Jonathan, Yukon Eric's people, and got them to sign on. So I said, let's start from the 50s, those men and women that built wrestling right up to, what we can. And we can't, of course, we can't get in with the WWE's people or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up 220 people on board.
Wow.
Men, women, referees, promoters, announcers.
Where can they order them?
PowerTownWrestling.com.
PowerTown Wrestling.
Right now, we run them for, everything is pre-sales.
Yes.
In our first 6, we ran Verne and Lou Thez from the 50s. We had King Kong Brody, Stan Hansen, Magnum TA, and Kerry Von Erich. And we have 2 collectors in our board. Of course, they only want to make a limited edition. And we were selling it for $79.95. And right now, I saw one online, Kerry Von Erich, for $1,500.
Wow.
And most of the other ones are going anywhere from $250 up to $1,250.
Wow.
So I said to our company, and we're 2 collectors, I said, now, who's making the money here? We're making a buck out of these, and you guys are selling them and making all this money. It makes no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've started another line. We have our Ultra line, which we can do about 18 figures a year.
Okay.
Figure costs us $27,000 to make.
Wow. So you made the Rock and Roll Express.
I got them right here. I wish I could show them on here.
Yeah, I wish you could show them. Yeah, they're great.
I don't know.
Rock and Roll Express you got? I don't know if you could see it.
Well, right now I've got Magnum TA, I got Brody, I brought Verne down to show you, but I don't know if they show very well.
Yeah, they don't show very well here. Wow, that looks a little bit okay. Yeah, I can see some. Yeah, wow.
That's Magnum. And then on the inside, you open it up and there's a story.
Oh, wow.
This is too black here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but I can see
there's
that.
A story in there. And the Brody one, he's got the scars on his head and all that. And they came out and everyone says we have the best product on the market right now.
Wow.
Now we're starting our Remco line. The Remco line, we've got a good crew on that. We can do maybe 60 of those a year.
Okay.
We got Air Dog, Tito Santana, the Rock and Roll Express, the Missing Link.
Hacksaw, right?
Yeah.
Hacksaw Duggan. Medusa?
In that run. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I don't think we'll see an Eric Bischoff in there anytime soon.
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Who? Is this over? Is this done?
Yeah. I wanted to.
No, you won't. You won't see that.
No, exactly. I wanted to ask you about him real quick too.
You might see just his body and no head. I don't know.
Now I know if I needed a ninja suit as a child, he probably had them.
Oh, yeah.
But you got him into the business though, right?
Well, it was really funny because McMahon had been picking off our people, and we had cut our interviews on Mondays, and for all our markets, and it was a full day, 9 o'clock to 6, 7 at night. So we do, 5 interviews for the Denver market, for Omaha, for Chicago, for Milwaukee, for Green Bay, Winnipeg, San Francisco, Phoenix, Las Vegas, and everything in between. So it was a long day. And on Friday, all of a sudden we get a call that Gene Okerlund won't be there on Monday. He's done. Went to New York.
Yeah, went to New York.
So we were kind of stuck. And one of our producers, Michael Shields, this Eric Bischoff had walked in and he was selling ninja suits. He wanted to run commercials on the wrestling. And Mike said, I think I can make an announcer out of him. So he took him in and spent all the weekend training him. And Eric came in the following Monday, did the interview, stumbled a little bit, but he got through it. And eventually when things got really tough and everybody was going, Bischoff wanted to go to TBS. So I made a call down there and got him in. And then it wasn't too long after that, Bill Watts hired me to come down. And they had this position, Bill, we were having a meeting, and he says, oh, they got this, they're coming up with something, they need an executive producer. And I said, go down and apply for it? No, it's nothing. So it was Tony Schiavone, Eric Bischoff, Joe Pedicino, and one other guy that was going in. And TBS's philosophy was they didn't want anybody from wrestling to have that spot. So Bischoff did a better interview. He got the spot, and all of a sudden we're working for him.
Wow. That's crazy. Unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. With everything going on in wrestling today, you know, your father trained so many different people, you know, so many stars, main eventers, you know, 140 or 150, right?
Yeah.
Would you go back to wrestling now that it's changed, a new era with Triple H? Would you go back and help them?
I would with Triple H. Yeah. I mean, I think him and The Rock are running that thing. And if you watch the last few weeks, I see the wrestling getting better in the ring than it was previously. They're getting back to more little storytelling. That's why I said that Sami Zayn and that Gable, they had a heck of a match. Good old school wrestling match, and the people got into it. They had them standing. You know, Vince, to him, it was all showbiz. You know, and they've done a fantastic job. Don't take me wrong. They've brought it to a whole new level. They've opened up my eyes to, you know, what do they have? 2 billion followers now across the world. Yeah, they do. That's like my guys in our business. I said, well, how many collectors are there? Well, there's about 10,000. I said, well, about 2 billion wrestling fans. Shouldn't we be selling these things to them?
Exactly.
Why are we focusing on the collectors? They're not going to put money in our pocket, for God's sakes. A lot of hard work. I mean, I got 220 people that signed contracts to, and I'd spend anywhere from 12 to 13 hours a day on the phone, tracking down the families. Here's a great one for you. Don Leo Jonathan's wife, Rosalie Heath.
Okay.
I called her up. She had me talk to her son, got him on contracts. Very nice lady. So I had to call her one day, and I call her, and she comes to the phone, and I said, Rosalie, and I said, Rosie, she's 85 years old. I said, you all right? Greg, I'm right in the middle of my workout. I said, good for you, Rosalie. So, you know, those are the people that we want to help. I mean, their whole life was wrestling, and they never had that opportunity, you know, to make more than what they made wrestling. Yeah. And those people should be honored. They're the people that built this industry. You go back to, you know, the late 40s when it was started before that, but it wasn't drawing much. Once it hit that national TV, wrestling exploded. And wrestling is Americana. It really is. Yeah. What
would your father think of today's business?
Well, I don't know.
He was old school.
It was old school. I think I know what Triple H and Rock and the group has done. He would like that. Vince brought it to the level that every promoter wanted it to. They wanted it to be worldwide. We knew wrestling was Americana, and it was all over the world. And people love wrestling. No matter what anybody says about it, what they criticize about it, they're all there, and they're all on the edge of their seats.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what they say, oh, it's a bunch of bullshit and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We're wrestling Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens in Denver, Colorado, with Bobby Heenan in their corner. And Jim and I were the tag champions. And Pat had been gone for a while. He came back in. It was what they call a cold title match. And it was sold out. And the Denver arena, when you'd walk out into it, the building would pulsate. Just boom, boom. And geez, your adrenaline would get going. You could jump higher. So we get in the ring with Pat and Ray. And the match starts, and they got a top wrist lock on us. And we try to fight out of it. And they would either pull us down by our tights or our hair, or Patterson would disrupt the referee. He wouldn't see it, and Ray would pull us back down.
Mm-hmm.
In 8 minutes, never a punch or a kick thrown,
Mm-hmm.
a top wrist lock, and we had a full-fledged riot, people coming in the ring trying to help us.
Wow. We were emotionally involved. We were
Emotionally involved, and that's what wrestling does. And people get they're into it. And my girlfriend, she always says, what is it about it? And I said, they get emotionally involved in you. Either they're going to like you or they're not going to like you.
Oh, yeah.
And when you can get that emotion and you get that behind you, get those people behind you,
Mm-hmm.
man, now all you have to do is just go out and bust your ass and make sure you have a good match.
Mm-hmm. And if you know how to sell, you know, that's another thing, and I remember as a kid watching you get beat up, and I'd be like, oh my God, someone help. And you're emotionally involved and you just want to be there to help. It's, selling's a big part of it.
It is. It's a unique sport. It's very rewarding when you do it well. And I think my partner and I can do it as well as anybody.
Mm-hmm. Is there any match that you think was one of your best matches? I know you wrestled 100 times, but
that one was really special. I mean,
that was special.
I mean, not a punch or a kick. All they did was pull our hair or our tights, and you got a full riot.
Yep.
San Francisco, Cow Palace. We had to wrestle Tito Santana and Rick Martel, and we're the champions.
Okay.
Cow Palace, big open building.
Mm-hmm.
So Rick and there's two championship matches, tag team championship matches, and then Bockwinkel and somebody after us. And Tito and Rick go out first. Here's what we hear. Boo, bullshit, boring.
Boring.
Oh, what? Well, good. They're going to cheer us. Here we go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We walk out. Bullshit, boring.
Boring. Mm-hmm.
So for 18 minutes, Rick and Tito had a hold on us.
Okay.
And we do get out of it, and they'd end up back in the hold.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning of the first 5 minutes, bullshit, boring. 10 minutes, bullshit. All of a sudden, they're standing.
Mm-hmm.
And we wrestled 43 minutes then.
Wow.
We were scheduled for about 20, but we were having so much fun because we got those people so into it. We had them standing in a clean match.
Wow.
Not a punch or a kick thrown in that match, just the rest. And that's the response the four of us got.
Wow.
We came out of that ring, everybody in the locker room. Verne was the first one. He shook our hands. Greatest match I've ever seen.
Mm.
You guys took that crowd. Earned it.
Wow.
And Ray Stevens, Nick Bockwinkel, Jerry Blackwell, the announcer, everybody that was on the card, Baron von Raschke, they said that was unbelievable, guys.
Wow.
So that's the most thing when you can hear it from pictures, and you can take four guys like that who go through all what we went through for 18 minutes with this crew and finally turn them to where they're standing and shooting, and you've got them going. They don't know who's going to win this thing. That's when you know you've done your job.
You got them, exactly. Do you have any regrets maybe not wrestling in W? I know your dad was the promoter, but I know it was towards the end. You have any regrets not going to the WWF at the time? Or I mean, it was tough. I know it's tough.
I've thought about it. I can't. I'm not the kind of person that's going to walk out on my dad.
It's tough, yes.
Yeah. They kept asking. Gene Okerlund, when they had him keep calling me, you got to come and team up with Brunzell here. And I said, I can't do it. I just can't. I wish I would have had that opportunity. I mean, I wish I could have taken advantage of that opportunity, I guess, is better way to put it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. And yeah, I'd love to have been a part of it. I think we could have held it. I think we'd have held our own there. I know we would have, you know.
Oh, that's great. I mean, and I wish I would have seen you there more.
You know, I had a chance when I was working with WCW.
Okay.
They asked me to do some training. And I went down and I had 6 guys.
Powerhouse? Was that the Powerhouse training camp? The Powerhouse training camp?
No, it wasn't called that then. It was just Mike Graham and I that were basically 2 of the trainers.
Okay.
And so I had 6 guys in the ring with me. I had Triple H, Steve Austin, Brian Pillman, Kevin Nash, Dallas Page, and who was the other one? It'll come to me. 6 guys. Oh, Booker T and his brother. 7 of them.
Wow. Okay. Stevie Ray.
And those are the guys I'm working with every day.
Wow.
And finally, one day I said, okay, Steve, you and I are going to get in here. We're going to wrestle for an hour. And I said, I want you guys just to sit down there and watch. And we went through an hour match. And unfortunately, I only had Triple H for a couple of weeks. Then he left for New York. And I guess he made it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so. You made it pretty well.
So, and then Eric said, I want Dallas Page to eventually become the champion here. I said, Eric, he was a manager. He's so far behind these guys. Here's your stars. Well, he let him go. He let Steve Austin go.
Yes, he did.
Booker T and his brother, he let them all go. Kevin Nash. So Diamond Dallas was there, and then he eventually fired me. I was a thorn in his ass, really, because I didn't like the direction he was trying to take it, and the talent that he was losing, and what he wanted to do with what he had. Yeah. So, anyhow,
let me ask you about Vince McMahon. I know he's going through his troubles, and I hope everything goes well, whatever, with him. How was he as a person with you, Vince?
How was he?
You okay? Yeah, how was he treated you okay?
Yeah, he was okay. He'd have these meetings. I'm one of those guys that I usually say what I think. Not too much. So I forget where we were at, but he was asking people what they thought about this match coming up. And they went around the room and Vince said what he thought. And then he called on Dusty, and Dusty disagreed with him. And then I disagreed with him.
I guess
Dusty stayed and I left.
Well, there you go.
So there you go. But his philosophy was so different from what I was brought up.
Yes.
We were into wrestling. He was into wrestling, but taking it to a new level and making it more like a, show, big show,
yeah, exactly. Well, Greg,
he did a good job doing it.
He did do a good job.
Yeah, as much as I would like to say that I like the guys that are running it now, and I wish them the best, and I know they'll do the best. They've got the best show in town, and Vince brought wrestling to a whole new level of which everybody wanted to do. Just the promoters couldn't get together to make that happen because of the egos. They all wanted their own territory and their own thing, and all thought what they did was better. And unfortunately, it backfired on everybody. And Vince took charge, and they brought wrestling now to it's probably the #1 sport in the world.
Yep, I remember going back some years. I was talking to years back Bobby Heenan, and Bobby had told me that when he worked in the WWF at the time compared to the WCW, it was working for the Yankees and a minor league team. He said it was just night and day. Did you get that same feeling?
Not really.
No?
Because Verne ran it like a major league team. We were called the Major League of Professional Wrestling.
Yeah.
So I was at that level and different than some of the other territories ran theirs. The Crockett's actually came to Minneapolis, wanted to know why we were so successful. And they spent 2-3 days there with us, watching us do the interviews, taping the matches and in the booking sessions. And they took that same structure that the AWA had back to the Charlotte area. And once they got that format in there, it exploded there, and they had great talent there too.
Wow.
You had Dusty Rhodes there, and Vernon sent him Ric Flair and Rick Steamboat, and thinking that they would be coming back. We'd send them down there for a couple of years, but they never came back. Magnum TA, my partner, he was phenomenal star.
He was.
That
Certainly
accident.
the accident. Yep.
Yeah.
Because he was going to win the title.
He was going to
win the title.
Hogan. Yeah.
Yeah. He was about to win that title.
In that area.
And speaking of Magnum, you guys do a podcast called Straight Talk with the Boss?
Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA and Greg Gagne. We do it, and we just got on the Four Horsemen Network.
Yes, in the 4 North. Everyone, please like and subscribe to that. They have great conversations. Amazing. So go there and like and subscribe, please. Greg,
we have fun on it.
You guys do have fun on it.
We few jabs at each other and stories, a lot of stories.
Yes. If you could talk to Magnum, let him know. Maybe I'd like to have him come on when he gets a chance too. He's a great guy. I met him before.
Oh, did you? I said, go on this. You got to go on the show with Joe. He says,
yeah.
Joe, no way. I'm not going on there with Joe.
I met him. He was in New York doing a Comic-Con, and I was there. In the big city event, New York, he was there. I met him there. There's a bunch because you don't go to these events, do you? Do you go and do autograph signings that much or no?
Not that much.
No.
I would. Finding out what some of the guys are making now. Yeah, I should be out there. I've been on it for a long time. I do some appearances around here. I've got one coming up in St. Louis for a Hall of Fame down there, and I got a call a few weeks ago that they're inducting me into the Waterloo Wrestling, the Dan Gable Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Wow!
So I'm very excited about that, and that's really a big one.
Yeah. Well, Greg, all I can say is thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Sounds like you're wrapping it up on me. I got more to talk about.
I know, but
don't be cutting me off now.
I know, but we can do it again. Definitely, we can.
Anytime.
I'd love to have you on. You great. If you come to Jersey with your girlfriend, you better call me.
I will.
Take you out to a nice restaurant.
All right.
You better call me. So thank you so much. I love you for everything. Thank you. All right.
Well, thanks for having me on, Sean. You know what? I get on a lot of these, and a lot of guys aren't prepared, don't have the right questions. You did a great job, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Greg. I'm trying.
All right.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Take care.